How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over my planned league starter, and that is going to be the new Iris Vigilant Breeze. You know me, I do like to play new characters. Whether or not I stay on this character for very long, we'll see. Wouldn't be the first time that I start on something and then change off of it after a few days. That's pretty normal for me because people like me to create and maintain a lot of builds for a lot of different characters. So this is the one that I do plan to start on. I will include starter build guides at least for other characters as well after today, all the way leading up to league start. But let's start with the new character here. So she has some pretty interesting things about her that also come with some pretty interesting downsides. So she allows Spirit Magus skills to be placed on your active skill slot, similar to the Iris one. But with her, the way that it works is you have the ability to fuse with one of your Spirit Magus pets, which will consume its life while you're in that form, but will allow you to, it will replace 4 of your skills with that of your Magus' skills instead. So what this means is that if you are going to be using other skills on your bar, they are going to need to be skills that have pretty long duration effects. So something to keep in mind with that means effects like Dazzling Bloom. This would be one of the effects that if you're going to run this, you would need to have it set to where it's not being overwritten. That is presuming that they're not going to automatically be triggering still. I'm curious, there might be a world in which if you have activation mediums on these skills, they will still trigger even if they're not showing on your active bar. So that is going to be something we have to test. But most likely what it means is that you're going to be looking at things like, again, Elemental Shock. With extended duration on it is going to be a pretty long duration buff. Things like that. Here, right, Nourishment of Life lasts a decent amount of time. Again, 6 seconds with extended duration on it. You're going to be getting pretty close to the cooldown on this. So it does mean that when you actually do pop out of your form, though, you are most likely going to need to be manually casting these, which may get clunky if we actually have to cast these where we have to pop out, ensure we pop our buffs, and then pop back in every 10 seconds. This might be something to consider and not something we're really not going to know until we actually get into the character. So the biggest thing about this is, again, the spirit is losing 20% of its life per second. I believe right now the spirit has about 11 or 12% regen based off of just like average growth that you're getting. I believe maybe it's 10% and it goes up as you get more growth. Someone has specific numbers for this somewhere, but just based off of what I've heard, discussing other things with other community members, that's pretty much the baseline regen for Spirit Magi. So it does mean early on you are going to need to start to get some recovery for your Spirit Magi. Or you're just going to have to deal with the fact that you are going to be bouncing between multiple of your Spirit Magi. So the way that they work here is while they are reconjuring, when you hit the button again, it's just going to prioritize your Spirit Magi that has the most life, and starting with like your main skill. So if both of your main skill Spirit Magi were dead, then it would move on to the next Spirit Magi you have if you had another one equipped. What this means is, again, you should just be able to cycle between 2 of them, and there are some points on the tree that you can grab to have 3 if need be. So early on, the 20%, you can probably sustain that quite easily. The issues that you're going to run into are when you start to run Whirlwind Tango here, which is going to allow you to spam the ultimate skill at the cost of using life every single time you do so. So what this does mean, though, is that we are going to be able to sustain a really high amount of damage. The ultimate skills have always done a ton of damage on the spirits. So, for example, here, just with the Frost Spirit, if you look at the damage multiplier here, on the ultimate for the cold, it's almost 3,000% of your base damage. For this, compared to, you're looking at 150% to maybe 300 or 400% on the enhanced skills. So you're looking at maybe 10 times the damage of a normal attack that you would be getting for your spirit. So what that means is, again, there is a pretty steep downside on that, but that is the downside that we are overcoming with this character. So the other benefits you get is the longer that you are in the form of one specific magi, you are getting this stacking buff on them to where you are dealing 10% more damage. This is probably multiplicative based off of how most things work with stacks. So what that means is, again, quite a significant damage boost, at least 100% more damage if you can maintain being in this form for longer. Early on, again, we might need to get a little bit of cooldown recovery just to ensure that we can quickly swap between the two Spirit Magi in case we are killing off the first one quite quickly. This other one, Breeze's Whisper here, it seems like it would be good just for the extra enhanced skill usage chance, things like that. But based off of the fact that you can only actually get a little bit of this recovery here, this 2.5%, every single time there is a cooldown on this at 0.9 seconds, I don't think that this is going to be good enough to justify over using the ultimate skills and being able to spam them. But we're going to have to play with this, right? We may need to start off on Breeze's Whisper for a little bit before we can get into Whirlwind Tango, but I think if you have any amount of pack spirits for some Spirit Magi recovery or some minion life, things like that you can get, I think it's going to make a significant difference. So there are some other nuances in regards to her to keep in mind, is that when you are in the Spirit Magi, it is the Spirit Magi that is actually attacking still. It's not you. So the minion will be the one that is, you will need to basically have regain for the minion in order for them to be the ones that are actually healing off of any attacks. And then you take all the damage from enemies instead of the Magi when you are in that form. And then it's also your movement speed instead of your minion's movement speed. Good things to do note about this, though, is if we can get regain early on a weapon or something like that, we can use Isomorphic Arms, because that is the first tree we're going to be taking. So we can swap to that if we need that early sustain in order to use Whirlwind Tango earlier. At level 60, we do unlock the these two Happiest Reunion and Warmest Vigilance, which is Happiest Reunions is during Vigilant state. All Spirit Magi are considered as fused Spirit Magi. And then during the Vigilant state, for each Spirit Magi, the fused Magi deals more damage, multiplicative, but it consumes more life per second. So realistically, that one's not going to be as good as Warmest Vigilance, because Warmest Vigilance is for every 5% max life consumed by the fused Spirit Magi, you're going to increase the stacks of Breeze by +1 up to +18 Breeze stacks, which is 180% more damage. This also says whenever it defeats an enemy, it will gain a stack of Breeze. That does mean that basically if you are sitting to where you have permanent sustain while in your Spirit Magi, it will basically hit max Breeze stacks instantly. So it'll be up to 28 Breeze stacks, which will be 280% more damage on that, which will be a significant damage buff versus the 20% times 2 at most that you're getting, with a significant downside of making it to where you are draining more life. Yeah, that's for each extra spirit as well. So if you're running 3 Spirit Magi, that would bring it all the way up to 40% life drained per second instead of 20%. So Warmest Vigilance is just going to be the one you're going to end up needing to run, basically no matter what. And then the last thing we do have here at level 75, which is the linchpin of the build, basically to help ensure that it is going to have really nice sustain, is going to be Nurturing Breeze here, which gives 50% of the natural life restoration that you have, when bonuses or extra bonuses to life restored per second also apply to your Spirit Magi. And then 100% of life regain and life regain interval bonuses or extra bonuses also apply to fused Spirit Magi. So what that means is when we have our items over here, right, with a 30% regain on it, right? If we have an item here with a 18% regain roll or a 30% regain roll, which is on Tin Staff here, that means that is going to be available to the minion itself or to the Magi itself. I was testing around with some trees, and basically on just this is a base iris with no actual recovery or regen on gear. This is all just based off of the tree. We're looking at upwards of like 1500 to 2000 life per second. I'm not even taking all of the life regain nodes yet, because I was calculating this for based off of more of a starting tree here, where you can get extra life regen here if you really wanted to. And you can actually get it again to where you're getting up to quite a significant amount of regen on the character to sustain or help sustain the ability to be permanently in this form. The other one, Merging Stream here, to where they get the buffs from your other Spirit Magi. It sounds kind of nice at first, but the idea, it would be really hard to sustain most likely. If you get to the point where just the 30% regain mod on a staff is enough to sustain these, there's a chance Merging Stream could get used just for extra damage, but I think it's going to be really hard to get to that point to where you can sustain it. So realistically, Nurturing Breeze and leaning into life regain and life regen is going to be what we're going to end up having to do on this character. So I'm going to have this Maxwell link here. I'm not sure whether or not this will actually be here on launch or not, just because these are all going to change or potentially go away, something like that. So first things first, you are going to start on God of Machines here. Again, you're just going to take the damage here, a little bit of attack and cast speed, and then we are just going to be taking this straight minion damage here. You don't need to worry about cooldown recovery speed on this version of the Spirit Magi because of the fact that you are just going to be using your ult repeatedly with 0 cooldown. And then we are just grabbing this minion damage and minion skill level, as well as this life regen here, and movement speed, and this life regen and movement speed here. So the movement speed's really nice, the life regen's really nice, and it is just going to help with personal defensive sustain as well as offensive sustain once we hit level 75. So we are going to be using orders here just for the additional minion damage. And then this does give, that. And then we have Mighty Guard here, which is going to be just initial growth and +2. Again, if we do end up having or getting a staff rather early that has regain on it, we can probably use that to help sustain the ability to this may just help sustain things even better to where we can actually maintain the ult form on a single spirit much earlier with isomorphic arms. This did get a bonus now as well to spell damage for those using spell damage pets. So that should be a nice little buff as well. And a little bit of extra reason to go to isomorphic arms if we just, as soon as we start to get a staff or a weapon with any amount of useful stats for the spirit itself. The next tree is going to be the Alchemist tree. We are just taking the same thing, minion damage, some minion attack and cast speed. Early on, you don't need to worry about the life regen. You will grab this at some point, but you're not going to grab it early on because you're going to be leaning towards it as you get closer to level 75 when you actually get those points in the tree. Early on, you just want to grab this minion damage as well as the enhanced skill chance. Then we have the sealed mana compensation for the Magus skills, +1 Magus here. And then you get some effect for the buff itself and empower skill effect here. And then 10% of damage taken is transferred to a random minion. We take that, and then we are taking Source here for extra sealed mana compensation for your Magus skill. And then just additional empower skill effect, additional origin effect here. And then we are going to be using Battle Trumpet early on. Eventually you can get to where you have enough enhanced skill chance at other places on the tree that you can probably drop Battle Trumpet for Talons of Abyss. But early on, especially since you don't need the cooldown recovery speed from this either, you will end up using the Battle Trumpet because at best you're getting like 500 growth on your pet here, which would be 25% additional damage, but early on this enhanced skill chance will be better, and then you will end up swapping to Talons of Abyss later as you get to where you're absolutely fully sustaining 100% ult chance or ult damage. Then you'll always be Talons of Abyss. But early on, the enhanced skill chance on Battle Trumpet will be nice just to sustain when you're not always in the form. And then for your last tree, you are going to be running Warlock here. This is going to synergize really, really well with the build. We have minion damage here, more attack and cast speed. Then we do have some life and life regain. This is the life regain that we are going to need once we hit level 75 in order to transfer to the spirit itself to maintain the permanent ult form. And then we have some cooldown recovery here in case we are needing to cycle between the two. If we are getting it to where we just don't quite have enough sustain and we are killing off one and we're swapping into the next one, having this cooldown recovery will ensure that that 3-second cooldown gets lowered to something that's easier to swap between. Then we just have some minion damage here, minion attack speed, and then +1. So we're getting +3 to all skill levels here, some levels to support skills. There might be some world in which we can get blur and we can basically, the ult skill is the main skill on the opposite bar, and there's a chance that we use something other than off the beaten track, but most likely that's what it's going to be. In regards to the supports, this is really going to depend on what spirit you are using. We're going to have to test them all live, so realistically you're just going to either have to pop into stream or you're going to have to just check for my day one update video to see what Spirit Magi is performing the best. Realistically, for leveling, they're all probably all going to feel pretty similar. I'm definitely going to be looking forward to trying out the new ones. The AoE on the Stone Spirit looks really nice. The Chaos Spirit looks really flashy and really cool. So I'm hoping the Chaos Spirit honestly is the best because I really like the colors on it and I think it's going to look really nice and feel very satisfying. So some few things that we can definitely look out for. We are going to want to use Elemental Duo, of course, just because this doubles the amount of spirits you get, as well as provides a nice damage buff. Early on, we're probably going to want to run Control Spell, just because of the fact that the amount of crit that you get now, crit has been basically like nerfed across the board, so it's a lot harder to get crit. You will end up swapping this out at some point. Your end game will end up being crit, of course, but early on, it's basically your crit rate is going to be so low, you might as well just take the big additional damage boost early on. Then you are going to be wanting to take Savage Growth, and then Harvest Time did get a buff to where it does automatically cause your pets to automatically prepare their Empower skill. The real question is this going to work even while you are in the controlled form? If it does, then it's going to make Harvest Time even better. Yeah, Harvest Time, it will be worse if you don't have that, just because it's the main thing that you are getting from it is additional enhanced skill chance, things like that. Yeah, so... And then same with the Empower skills, if you're not using them all the time, or they're not being auto-triggered, whatever, while you're in that form, Harvest Time may not end up being used, so it may just end up being some generic damage skill instead. And then same with Passivation, this is if we are using the Chaos Spirit. Of course, this will just change to any other damage thing depending on what spirit we're using. So a lot of this stuff is really just in the air still. We just kind of have to keep an eye on it. So in regards to gearing, the main things to look for in an early staff here are you're going to be looking for intelligence, for flat damage to spells and main skill level for your prefixes here. And then for the suffixes, you are going to want cast speed, life regain, and then spell damage or damage matching whatever spirit you are using. Spell damage will be nice if you want to swap between pets. And yeah, pretty much you're looking to get life regain on one of these as soon as you can. I'm hoping that we can see this mod on things fairly often while we're leveling, because I think what it'll mean is it'll help bolster that early sustain by using isomorphic arms when you get that. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. The main leveling uniques to kind of look for here, I basically got them shown here for each treasure trove here. Rock Lizard Skull in the first one, we have Desirous Survival in the second. Lonesome Ring can start dropping around the level 16 one, though it's most common from the level 27. And then Interlocking Soul is another one of those weapons which will be really, really good to help with the sustain for your minions, just because it causes them to regain life, 3% life per second. It does have really nice boosts or damage buffs on it as well for minion damage. And then the other thing is Call of Souls, which does give you some regen, some minion damage, and then extra growth for them. Yeah, so this is kind of where we're at with the build. Really excited to play this class. Again, so much stuff is in the air. It's hard to do a full comprehensive, like, this is the build guide, this is going to be exactly what we're going to want to be using until we know. So in order to really fully deeply dive into this, I will have an update for this after the first day of playing, because it's hard to say with certainty anything else, but it does seem like we will absolutely be able to sustain, again, permanent ultimate form. Which spirit is going to be the best or have the best ultimate? That's kind of in the area. Again, we need to look around and see what the new stone spirit gives, what the new chaos spirit gives, to see if it's going to be one of those or if it's going to be lightning spirit, something like that. Fire spirit does have a really nice ult early on with like a big like teleport and explosion, but it does typically ignite, which there's limited ignite support, so it does have a kind of ceiling that it can hit, which it can get to some pretty high damage fairly early, but it does kind of fall off or basically hit a ceiling that it can't really go higher than, and that's where other things are going to outscale it. So we're going to have to look into it. But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and other than that, see you in the next one.